What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG TCG video. Today, guys, we are going to be discussing the new Hidden Treasure support. I think that's what the series of cards are called. It's the cards that were used by the old man Yanagi in the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime. We're getting more of his cards being released in the upcoming Animation Chronicles 2023, and we're going to be basically discussing that in today's video. So without further, the first card that we're going to be discussing of this new support is going to be Ashoka Pillar, a level 3 Earth Rock effect monster with 0 attack and 2200 defense, and you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. If this card is summoned, you can add one equipped spell from your deck to your hand. Then if this card is in attack position, change it to defense position. Second effect, if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, take 2000 damage. So this card is pretty interesting. The first effect, to be able to just add any equipped spell from your deck to your hand, is pretty fascinating to say the least. Obviously, if you can find some good, equipped spells that can really work with this deck, then this is just a nice card to be able to search for any of those equipped spells. Looking in the context of like the archetype or the series of cards themselves, you would be basically using this card to search for, I believe the card is called Stronghold, which allows you to be able to special summon a monster with 0 attack from your graveyard and equipping it with that card, if I remember correctly. So for archetypal sake, and going after that card is actually not really that bad. Just to be able to get back one of the pieces from your graveyard and get it back onto your field isn't really that bad. And then the second effect, where it deals 2000 points of damage, I mean, that's just what you're expecting with these cards, because the whole point of the deck, I guess you can say, is to just reverse all of the effect damage that you would be taking back to your opponent, whether it's using the Cursed Reflect Doll to basically redirect the damage, or what some of the other cards we're going to be discussing later. They're also going to have ways to be able to redirect damage to your opponent, which we will get to in just a second. But overall, I do think this card is pretty cool. If you're able to find the equipped spells, that really does make it worth it. I can see some use for it, but for right now, because I can't really think of any good equipped spells that you would be playing it outside of the one I just mentioned with the Stronghold equipped spell, I think this card is just alright, in my opinion. But with that being said, guys, let's get into our next card, which is going to be Cabrera Stone, a level 1 Earth Rock effect monster with 0 attack and defense, and you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. If this card is summoned, you can add one Triangle O from your deck to your hand. Then if this card is in attack position, change it to defense position. Second effect, if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, take 1000 damage. So not really too much to really go over with this card. The first effect, to be able to search for Triangle O. I'm gonna wait and discuss Triangle O first before really discussing that first effect, which, yeah, it's searching the card, but I want to see if it's actually worth the trouble of actually searching for Triangle O, which, if you watch the 5D's anime, you do know what Triangle O does, but not everyone has watched the 5D's anime, so I am gonna wait and discuss Triangle O before really discussing this first effect of whether or not it's actually worth it or not of actually playing Triangle O. And when it comes to everything else, there isn't really too much to discuss other than the fact that this card is level 1, which is really nice, meaning that this card can be special summoned with 1-for-1, which, hey, any way to get these monsters out in the field is going to be beneficial, because not a lot of these cards, or in the context of like in archetypal way of being able to get these cards out onto the field. So any means necessary of being able to get these cards out onto the field, like with 1-for-1 with getting out Cabrera Stone, is absolutely crucial, because again, there's no easy way to get all the monsters out onto your field. So being able to use 1-for-1 to at least get Cabrera Stone onto your field is super beneficial, and definitely is going to be required to be able to play this deck as consistently as you're going to possibly be able to do. So that is very important to note. So with that being said, let's get into our next card, which of course is going to be Triangle O, a normal spell card that reads you can only use one of the first and second effect of this card's name per turn, and only once that turn. If you control Crystal Skull, Ashoka Pillar, and Cabrera Stone, destroy all cards on the field. Also this turn, your opponent takes any effect damage you would have taken instead. Second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 Crystal Skull, 1 Ashoka Pillar, and 1 Cabrera Stone in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 3 cards. So this card is very, very gimmicky, I'm not gonna lie. For starters, it's nice that you can actually search this off of Cabrera Stone instead of having to hard draw this card. So, plus, right off the bat, the biggest issue when it comes to this card is that good luck trying to resolve this card, because let's be honest, you basically have a better chance of summoning Black Rose Dragon and doing basically the same thing. The only difference is that you're not really being able to deal effect damage, which who cares? There's plenty other ways to deal damage to your opponents. Like, that is way more easier and way more consistent than trying to pull this off, because you basically have to get 3 specific monsters out onto the field, hopefully not negating their summons or anything like that. So like, for example, when I was mentioning 1-for-1 with the Cabrera Stone, if that gets negated, that's basically going to be it for you, because you're not going to be able to get all these monsters on the field. More realistically, you're not going to be able to get them onto the field, because the way that I see it is that you want to use 1-for-1 to get Cabrera Stone, and then basically send like a Crystal Skull to the graveyard, either by 1-for-1's effect or maybe like a Foolish Burial, something like that if you didn't get it in your hand, and then use a Shoka Filler's effect when you normal summon it to add the Stronghold Equip spell to bring it back. Then you can use Triangle O. But like I said, good luck being able to accomplish that. But hey, I guess if you do that, you're basically able to not only nuke your opponent's board, but you get to deal 3,000 points of damage to your opponent thanks to Ashoka Pillar and Cabrera Stone, dealing a total of 3,000 points of damage right back to your opponent thanks to Triangle O. And then the second effect where you can shuffle the cards back into your deck and then draw 3 cards. I guess that's cool, and you know, it's able to refill your hand, and maybe you can pull the combo off again, which, I don't know, if you're going to have a hard time doing it the first time, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to do it the second time. Your opponent's not going to let you be able to do that, so who really cares by that regard? So, yeah, the one thing when it comes to this card is that it's very gimmicky, it's very memey, and you know what? If you're able to pull this off, more power to you. Is it realistic? No, let's be honest here. If you really just want a card that can just wipe your opponent's entire board, just play Black Rose Dragon. It is so much simpler. It's less cards that you're going to have to use in order to play it. Like, I don't know, just to me, it's a funny card, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I just don't think it's worth it in my opinion. But with that being said, let's get into our next and actually our final card of the video, which is going to be Totem Pole, a continuous trap that has 4 effects. The first one being your opponent cannot target rock monsters you control with 0 original attack. With card effects, once per battle, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can negate the attack and place 1 counter on this card. Third effect, if this card has 3 counters, send it to the graveyard. Fourth effect, if you have 3 or more monsters with 0 attack and different names in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Any effect damage your opponent takes this turn is doubled. So this card is actually pretty interesting. It basically gives you the best protection that you can really have in a card to a degree, because unfortunately it has to be targeting effects that they wanted to give protection to. You know, just don't get full card effect protection. Now it's just only going to be for targeting, because you know, you can't really make this card any much better for a deck that's right now not really that good in the slightest. So yeah, sure, but hey, at least you're able to protect it from battle, but only 3 times, and once this thing hits 3 counters, boom, it's destroyed, which I guess that could potentially save you a turn or 2 to be able to get your cards out into the field if your opponent disrupts you the first turn, but more than likely your opponent's just going to kill you anyway, so it's not going to really matter if I'm going to be honest. But the fourth effect I will say is actually kind of interesting. So let's say hypothetically you're able to get all 3 monsters out onto your field before you activate Triangle O. You get this card to the graveyard with something like, you know, Foolish Burial Goods or something like that to be able to send this card to the graveyard. You activate Triangle O, you send the cards to the graveyard, nuke your opponent's board, then you banish this card from your graveyard when your cards try to activate their effects to be able to deal damage. You chain this, and now you're able to deal double effect damage. So instead of dealing 3,000 points of damage, you deal 6,000, and then if you're able to bring back Crystal Skull from the graveyard, it will actually deal 2,000 points of damage to your opponent, because it originally deals 1,000 when it's summoned, but because all effect damage now goes to your opponent, you're able to deal 2,000 for a potential OTK. Is that gonna happen? Probably not, but would it be funnier than hell? Absolutely. So, although there is a little nice cheeky way to potentially OTK with this card, more than likely you're not going to really be able to get that off pretty consistently. So, it's a cool card, but I don't think it's really going to help the deck that much, if I'm going to be completely honest. And with that, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. I pretty much stated everything that I felt like I needed to say when it came to this deck. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a cool moment in the anime when Yusei was able to pull this off and being able to defeat Tanner. However, when you look at it in a realistic standpoint and how the modern game of Yu-Gi-Oh is, this deck just cannot really stand up to it. Like, it's a cheeky OTK strategy, if we're going to be completely honest, and it's very memeable, but in terms of practical use, it is not really that good at all. And I don't know, like, if you want to try and make this deck work, more power to you, but I'm just being honest here, the deck's not that great. It's a fun meme deck, which, hey, you know what, for most cases, you know, that's completely fine, and you know, you can have your meme decks every once in a while, but if I'm looking at this from a realistic, playable standpoint, it is just not really a good deck in my personal opinion. But with that being said, that's pretty much going to be it. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the new support down below. Do you think the support is good? Do you think it's alright? Or do you not think the support is that great at all? And let me know your guys' thoughts on just the archetype itself as a whole. Do you like the archetype? Do you actually care about it? Like, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this and your entire thoughts on the new support down below. But with that being said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.